Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Aerospace Brazil Summit, held by Apex Brazil in partnership with São José dos Campos Technology Park and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm Helena Bonabrandão, coordinator of the investment department at Apex Brazil, the Brazilian Trade Investment Promotion Agency, and I'm going to be the presenter of this event. Before we start, I would like to ask all participants to keep your mics off. If you have any question, please use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. If your question is not answered during the event, we're going to address it later by mail. This is the first edition of the summit, and we hope we can provide a good platform for business and meetings and show that Brazil remains a strong, reliable player in the aerospace industry. The purpose of today's event is to highlight the advantage of the aerospace sector in Brazil regarding innovation, partnerships, and institutions ready to facilitate the establishment of a business in the country. We're going to also analyze how Brazil will position in the future of aerospace. The transmission will be in English and will be recorded for social medias. In today's event, we're going to have the participation of the utmost importance for the sector. The Brazilian Space Agency will talk about the Alcântara Launch Center and its opportunities for the private companies. Panel 1, which includes Embraer, Airbus, and Boeing, with the moderation of São José dos Campos Technology Park, will talk about doing business in Brazil. Panel 2 will show you how to soft land in Brazil with vital institutions such as ApexBrasil, FINEP, Embrapi, and the Brazilian Development Bank, BNDES. Between panels, there will be pitches from Brazilian companies that are ready to establish partnerships with foreign companies. They were selected to be part of a portfolio of 30 companies, which will be present in the platform for meetings requests. If you have completed your profile in our website, please feel free to request meetings with those Brazilian companies and Apex Brazil. The online meetings will be available throughout the week. Now, for the opening remarks, the president of Apex Brazil, Mr. Sérgio Segovia, followed by Mr. Elcio Alberto Jr., business director at São José dos Campos Technology Park. Mr. Segovia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Helena. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first edition of the Invest in Aerospace Brazil Summit. On behalf of Apex Brazil, I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Elcio Alberto Jr., Business Director at the São José dos Campos Technology Park, PQTech, to our distinguished keynote speakers, Mr. Carlos Moura, President of the Brazilian Space Agency, Mr. Alberto Dantas, Director of Innovation of Studies and Projects Financier, FINEP, and Mr. Jorge Almeida Guimarães, President Director at Brazilian Industrial Research and Innovation Company, Embrapi, and Mr. Gustavo Montezano, President of the Brazilian Development Bank, BNDES. I also kindly welcome our distinguished CEOs and guests here representing the most important aerospace companies in Brazil. This summit is held in partnership with the São José dos Campos Technology Park, PQTech, the largest aerospace cluster in Latin America, which concentrates more than 150 companies comprising small, medium-sized, and large enterprises, as well as startups. PQTech is a fundamental player regarding innovation in the aerospace sector in Brazil. Along with PQTech, Apex Brazil has organized a portfolio of 30 Brazilian companies that are ready to establish technological partnerships with foreign enterprises. Those companies were selected among over 1,000 companies in a pioneer effort to try to map the whole Brazilian aerospace industry. During the summit, foreign partners and investors will be able to request meetings with the selected Brazilian companies until April 20th. Brazil is a traditional international player regarding aeronautics, a star performer in the aerospace sector regarding quality and availability of workforce, Our exports in this sector represents 5.5 billion US dollars per year. Also, Brazil is the world's largest agriculture aviation market. Our aerospace industry is involved in all stages of aeronautic, space, and defense activities, including design and development, manufacturing, production, technology, sales, customer support, and aerospace services. Brazilian products such as airplanes, helicopters, structural segments, engines, aircraft, engine parts, onboard systems and equipment, and air traffic control systems are developed locally and exported globally. All this bright outcome ranks Brazil as the largest aerospace industry in the South Hemisphere and as the Latin America's top performer in the aerospace industry, developing complex and advanced technologies. Brazil is also providing a favorable environment for innovation regarding urban air mobility, with successful cutting-edge mobility technology investments, improving the conditions that our industry and market can offer. Regarding the space segment, Brazil has the largest space industry in Latin America. Brazilian industry offers small satellites, satellite structures, payloads, satellite equipment, ground system, propulsion, sounding rockets, launchers, and service related to satellites. Brazil is also seeking to be part of the new space economy with initiatives to enable commercial launch to be made from the Alcântara launch site. For instance, the Alliance of Brazilian Space Startups was launched in October 2020. Its goal is to strengthen and stimulate the Brazilian space market through the promotion of productive arrangements, incentives to innovation, and development of disruptive, agile, competitive, and intelligent solutions, allowing to prompt fulfillment of domestic demands and the insertion of those solutions in the international space market. Thus, this summit combines investment opportunities in Brazil and the possibility to engage with local companies to increase the innovation in the aerospace sector in our country. I wish you all a very good work day. Thank you.
Well, I thank you, Helena, for the opportunity. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Technology Park of São José dos Campos and the Brazilian Aerospace Cluster, welcome everyone to our first Invest Aerospace Brazil Summit. As Mr. Segovia said, this event aims to identify opportunities of business in Brazil for our companies and for companies abroad. I want to say a special hello to Mr. Sergio Segovia, President of ApexBrasil. Apex is the official Brazilian export agency and the Brazilian Aerospace Cluster, the main Brazilian organization that supports and promotes aerospace Brazilian companies with more than 100 associates, has had successful partnership for a long time. Mr. Segovia, in his speech, saved a lot of my words, so I want to thank all the participants of this morning, the representative of Minister of Science and Technology and Innovation, Ricardo César Madrich, my old and good friend, Carlos Moura, President of Brazilian Space Agency, Danielle Mosslover. I used to say to Danielle that when I learned to say his name very well, I win a medal. Thank you, Danielle, for it. Okay. Danielle is CEO of Embraer X. Giuberto Peralta, President of Airbus Brazil. Landon Lumbes, Executive Director at Boeing Brazil. Hello, Landon. Mr. Roberto Scuto, Head of Investment Department of ApexBrasil, Alberto Dantas, Director of Innovation FINEP, Jorge Almeida Guimarães, President of ABRP, and Gustavo Montezano, President of BNDES. I'd like also to say hello to Rodrigo Mendes, our Executive of International Affairs, who is in charge of our partnership with Apex, and will moderate the first panel this morning. And Mr. Marcelo Nunes, the head of Brazilian Aerospace Cluster. We also have some companies associated to the Brazilian Aerospace Cluster that will do some presentation. LACI Engineering, Exmo Bolts, Avionics, Altav, and Altaza. With all these speakers and participants, we have a very good expectation that the foreign companies will easily identify opportunities and come to Brazil to do business and establish cooperation with Brazilian companies and institutions. Wish a very good and productive event to our partners, authorities, and the representative of companies, observing that the Tech Park and the Brazilian Aerospace Cluster will be with open arms to receive all of you. Have a good event, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Segovia and Mr. Albert. It's excellent considerations. And now, to talk about the Alcântara Launch Center and its opportunities, Mr. Carlos Moura, the President of the Brazilian Space Agency, AEB. Mr. Moura, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Helena. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak a little bit about our space program and especially about Alcântara. I would start saying that currently immersed in the third major wave of innovation and investment, the space industry has built on the new space ethos and now comes about through a confluence of factors. And if many of such factors are of technological nature, others comprise financial, regulatory, and structural features, ranging from governmental funding and special purpose acquisition companies to export control and frequency spectrum licensing rules. Formerly dominated by government interests, the space industry presently accommodates a variety of new companies, technologies, and investors thrive on a rapidly growing commercial ecosystem. More than merely showing resilience and surviving the burdens of a painful pandemic, the space industry has proved to be a foundational enabler of our everyday activities, ranging from internet connectivity for remote working purposes, as we are doing now, to mapping and navigation. Governments and businesses have largely used satellite data to track the spread of COVID-19 and support public safety. Satellite IoT and Earth observation made the remote asset inspection, tracking, and monitoring possible, delivering essential services. More than ever, space technologies help to solve high-value problems around the world. Unsurprisingly, 2020 ended with the funding environment for space tech companies at remarkable levels, and upstream categories relating to space-based infrastructure, pointing to strong growth trajectories. From a domestic perspective, as an emerging spacefaring nation, Brazil has been following the international trend of regulating space activities under its responsibility and jurisdiction through national legislation. Relying on an enduring space program, our nation has developed through the course of many decades not only several artificial satellites, but also launch centers, and has the aim to develop a national launch vehicle. The Brazilian government has carried out numerous actions to promote academic, scientific, and industrial development, boosting national technology in several areas, including space. Such efforts were primarily carried out by the Brazilian Space Agency, the Brazilian Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, and the Brazilian Air Force, often engaging other government agencies and decision makers, members of the academia, and obviously the private sector. Over the years, the Brazilian space sector has substantially enhanced its capacity by either organizing national projects or taking part in space missions that required cooperation with other nations. In 2019, as part of a Brazilian Space Agency action to establish the Alcântara spaceport as an international spaceport, Brazil signed a technology safeguards agreement with the United States, deepening the cooperation ties between the two nations and enabling foreign and national private companies that have US technology in their space products to operate from the Brazilian territory. Seeking to identify companies interested in carrying out suborbital and orbital launch operations using Alcântara spaceport, the Brazilian Space Agency issued a public call in May 2020, and the responses were encouraging. The process comprised NDA and other procedures in order to guarantee appropriate technology protection. Licensing and authorization applications are still being processed by AB, and the negotiations with the companies by the Brazilian Air Force. The use of the Alcântara spaceport's goods and services for the launch of non-military space vehicles are expected to benefit the local community and consolidate the site as an unmatched commercial space launch hub. It's worth noting that private operations are expected to start during the second half of 2021 and shall prioritize small satellite launching activities. The second public call was issued last Friday, covering another Alcântara area to support larger launching vehicles. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Brazilian spaceport, I remind you that it's known for its proximity to equator, favorable weather, and logistic support, and has some competitive advantages that allow Brazil to explore a broad range of launching applications when compared to other active spaceports. Located in the northeastern state of Maranhão, the Alcântara Space Center is ideally situated for launch to geosynchronous orbit and is the lowest latitude of any space launch facility anywhere in the world. The region has low population density and is accessible by air and sea. Thanks to a program designed to foster the development of Alcântara's infrastructure, in addition to creating business models that contemplate and promote space activities, the Brazilian spaceport is set to become increasingly competitive in the coming years, spurring investment in the region, generating economic growth, and delivering societal benefits at the local and national levels. A recent Euroconsult publication forecast small satellites, anticipating the launch of close to 14,000 small sats before 2030. All small sats to be launched, 84% are expected to be part of constellations. Furthermore, the small sat manufacturing and launch markets are set to do more than triple over the next decade to 35 billion and 19 billion respectively, driven by the multiplication of constellation projects from both commercial and government stakeholders. The Alcântara Launch Center targets initially this demand for small launches, constituting a unique opportunity in terms of geographical location, launch costs, and ease of exports. Make no mistake, institutional development, private sector engagement, qualified human capital, and increased tech entrepreneurship added to a surge of interest in commercial space in Brazil. Come join a country that is poised for growth and help create social and economic impact by investing in space. I conclude this brief address quoting Virgil, whose works were once regarded as national treasure by Romans, and having these words survived through centuries, they sound more like inspirational adage for us space supporters and enthusiasts. My fellow companions from the Brazilian Force Academy will understand immediately what I mean when remind you of one of the poet's finest lines. Macti animo, generosi pur, sicitur ad astra. That means, courage, young man. That is how you reach the skies. Blessings on your courage, friends and partners. The efforts of this era's trailblazers and visionaries will lead to the safety and development of the space domain, ensuring long-term viability of new space ventures and increasing investor confidence in the industry. And that, ladies and gentlemen, sure paves the way to stars starting from Brazil. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Moura. Thank you very much for your speech. To start the first panel, which will address doing business in Brazil, I would like to call Mr. Danielle Mosslover, CEO of Embraer. Mr. Giuberto Peralta, President of Airbus Brazil, Mr. Landon Loomis, Executive Director of Boeing Brazil, and Mr. Rodrigo Mendes, Executive Manager of São José dos Campos Technology Park. Mr. Rodrigo, please feel free to begin our panel.
Thank you very much, Helena. First, I would like to thank all the participants that join us in this summit. Also thank ApexBrasil, long-term partner of the São José dos Campos Technology Park, Mr. President Sérgio Segovia, Mr. Roberto Scotto, and all the team from Helena. I would also like to thank our speakers for this first panel, Danielle Mosslover from Embraer X, Giuberto Peralta from Airbus, and Landon Loomis from Boeing Brazil. The aerospace industry in Brazil is, we might say, one of the main or a fine example of our long-term investment and public policy on industrial development. It started in the late 40s, 50s from the last century with the Air Force Development Center, and initiated developing new talents and now uncountable engineers and aeronautics engineers in the Aeronautics Institute of Technology, ITA, and from that on, we have, with the Air Force Technology Development Center, set a whole new industry that starts from aviation, aeronautics, also space and defense in aerospace industry. So it's been more than 70 years of investment that brought us to what we are now as one of the main players in the global market and global industry. And we have in Brazil, as already mentioned from some of the colleagues that previously spoke, we have definitely, we are one of the main markets on business aviation. We are one of the main markets in agricultural aviation, in helicopters, and also in commercial aviation. So also we want to become a more representative partner and a player in this new space economy, as very well put by the president of the space agency, Mr. Carlos Moura. So to talk to us on this panel, which main objective is to present an overview of the aerospace sector in Brazil, and we are directly speaking about the Brazilian aerospace industry on its market, competitive advantages, technical skills, and human resource and local talents as factors of attractivities for foreign companies. Also, we will discuss a global strategic position of the Brazilian aerospace industry, which are the main trends and opportunities for the future of this industry, and how Brazil can expand and insert more our industry in the global market, which are the main challenges of the sector in Brazil. And to do so, we will start the first presentation with Danielle Mosslover, who is the CEO of Embraer X. He has a degree in chemical engineering and a master in modeling, simulation, and process control. Is in the Embraer company since 2013. Also act as president and CEO of Embraer Sistemas business unit. Subsequently merged into the subsidiary of ATEC, and now he took over the technology development director from 2017, and in 2020 assumed the position of CEO of Embraer X, which is a disruptive innovation company from Embraer, also responsible for the areas of corporate innovation, digital transformation, and new business development. Please, Danielle, thank you very much for joining us, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo, for the introduction. I also would like to thank ApexBrasil, President Segovia, very much for the invitation to join this great event today. Thank you also, Elcio, Director of our Technopark in São José dos Campos. It's always a great opportunity to be joining the Technopark organized events, not only because I have the honor to serve as the vice chairman of the board of the Park Association, but also because Embraer is one of the founders of the park. We have a strong presence in the park with our technology development group, also with our controlled companies ATEC and Visiona, that I'm going to be talking about briefly during this speech. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll begin by just talking briefly about Embraer so that the audience can understand our perspective and where our point of view is coming from. So Embraer, as Rodrigo mentioned, is one of the great results of this long-term industrial policy, long-term vision of the Brazilian government to establish this very unique cluster, aerospace cluster that we have in the São José dos Campos city, or I could say the Vale do Paraíba, our equivalent to Silicon Valley when it comes to aerospace in Brazil. So Embraer is a spin-off of this entire movement, a spin-off of ITA, the Technology Aeronautics Institute, and also the Brazilian Air Force Technology Center. So Embraer was born in 1969 to manufacture and to commercialize the Bandeirantes, the aircraft that was born from the Brazilian Air Force to create the regional aviation business. And Embraer grew to be today a global leader when it comes to regional aviation, when we're talking about aircraft up to 150 seats. We also entered very successfully the executive jets market as well, where we rank as one of the global leaders. We have, just to name one example, our Phenom 300 is an aircraft that for 9 years in a row is the best seller in the executive aviation market. We have a strong presence in defense and security, serving more than 50 plus armed forces globally. And of course, our global footprint with services and support. But I would like to address the great opportunity that the Brazilian airspace market represents. Of course, it is a challenging time to be talking about that. The global aviation industry is living one of its historically, maybe its worst crisis as a result of the global COVID-19 pandemic. So 2020 was a very, very tough year for all of us. But 21 is the year we believe we can start planning and executing the recovery. We see vaccination making good progress in many countries of the world, maybe not at the pace that all of us would like, but aviation industry is supporting the best we can the distribution of the vaccines and all the supplies, and hopefully by the second half of this year and certainly by next year, we should have a very good progress there. So we are beginning to see good signs of recovery, and that's why we believe 21 is the perfect year for us to plan for the growth that will come and to reshape and evaluate all the opportunities that are out there. And when we talk about opportunities, Brazil is for sure one of the greatest and largest markets for aviation, that it has already been mentioned. It's one of the top markets globally for commercial aviation, but also for executive aviation, for defense, security, space, agriculture. Brazil is one of the top agriculture powers of the world, and agricultural aviation and the use of space to support precision agriculture presents great opportunities in Brazil. There's still a lot to be done in terms of infrastructure in the country, which we also see as a great opportunity for external investors. Brazil today is a mature democracy where we have been seeing an increasing pace of liberal reforms in many areas when it comes to labor law, to taxes. So there's still a lot to be done, but we can clearly see a positive progress when we think about the country, the rule of law, big advancement, big progress in terms of compliance, anti-bribery laws, and very effective action. So it is really what we see as a mature market that presents great opportunity. Besides, we have a lot of talent in country. We have state-of-the-art, world-class schools, colleges, universities. We have world-class research and development centers and institutions, more than half a century experience when it comes to aviation, with a track record of achieving global relevance and global competitiveness. So it is a highly competitive export basis when it comes to cost. When you combine that with a skilled workforce, very young in profile, very agile, we believe the Brazilian ecosystem is, again, really unique when it comes to making a difference in the future of aerospace. I want to address as well the position that the country has as a leader in Latin America when it comes to aerospace, and also the supply chain that has been maturing and evolving, I would say with a significant contribution of Embraer as one of the main manufacturing companies established in country. So we have been investing a lot in the development of our local supply chain, and we have been achieving quite remarkable results. And I'll name just a few examples. When we look at our E2 generation of regional jets, there's been an increase of 53% in number of items supplied by Brazilian contractors, by Brazilian companies, as compared to the previous E1 family. When we look to our defense business, to our C390 Millennium, the most advanced in terms of technology, the most advanced cargo military fighter in the world today, 45% of the parts are supplied by the Brazilian base. So there's been happening a lot of progress in the competitiveness and the quality and maturity of what the local supply chain can deliver. And in the case of Embraer, if we go back to pre-crisis numbers from 2019, we're talking about 60 subcontractors that were capable to supply about $500 million Brazilian reais in terms of contribution to the Embraer exports. Or when we look to indirect suppliers, this number in the overall supply chain is about was about in 2019 2 billion reais of contribution to what Embraer adds in terms of value. I want to close my remarks taking a look in the future of our industry. The future of aviation is going to be very different from what we see today. This is an industry that is about to be disrupted. When we see the trends in terms of sustainability, but also the energy transition to renewables that is going to impact the global economy, and quite frankly has already begun to have such a large impact. We believe the aviation industry is going to be one that is going to be dramatically impacted, that will have to transform itself to create a sustainable future, to lower the level of emissions or even achieve neutrality or zero carbon. A lot of innovation and technology are going to be needed. At Embraer X, the disruptive innovation arm of Embraer, that's one of the key projects we are working on, the eVTOL, the electric vertical and takeoff vehicle, that is going to be part of an entirely new ecosystem of urban air mobility, one that will be born already as a zero carbon modality or mode of transportation, totally sustainable mobility. We are pretty sure urban air mobility will lead the way in the aviation world in terms of lower emissions or even zero emissions. And again, we believe Brazil can be a leader in this, in building this future of sustainable mobility. Not only because of all the talents, the skills, the research centers that I mentioned, but also because among the top economies of the world, Brazil is already today the one with the cleanest energy matrix. There's no other top economy with that level of contribution of renewables. And this is going to keep growing with wind power, with solar power, hydropower. We can see Brazil playing a very important role in sustainable aviation. We talk about sustainable fuels, biofuels, another area where Brazil enjoys a very significant competitive advantage, cost advantage, and a lot of technology when it comes to agro business. So just to close, I would say now that we have completed 51 years in the market, Embraer, on our company, we remain committed to the local communities. Our strategic vision is to engage all the countries, but especially here in Brazil, where we have our largest footprints, the regions where we operate. We have launched our strategic plan and vision for 21-25, which is not only about reshaping the company and prepare ourselves for the recovery and the growth that will come, but especially to position Embraer to explore partnerships, to have a lot of focus on innovation and sustainability. And we would like to invite all partners and investors from throughout the world to come and take a look at this very unique ecosystem that we have here in Brazil. Just to name a few projects we are working on where we are totally open for external partners to join, a brand new turboprop to serve the regional aviation market. We are working on the Stout, which may become the first hybrid aircraft, a light transport aircraft for the Brazilian Air Force. I mentioned already the eVTOL for urban air mobility. There are plenty of other opportunities in terms of systems, radars, air traffic management, where we do have the company ATEC responsible for the Brazilian air traffic management and control, satellite space through Visiona, another company of our portfolio, cybersecurity. So plenty of opportunities. And again, thank you all so much for the opportunity to be talking to you today. Embraer remains very keen to explore these partnerships, and we invite our audience to look into also the other companies we have, the smaller companies, the startup ecosystem that is really booming in Brazil right now. and to see there's a lot to be done, and there's a lot to be done together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you very much. And we will move on for our second speaker, Giuberto Peralta from Airbus Brazil. Giuberto has accumulated decades of experience in the aerospace sector and has assumed several leadership positions in the global conglomerate, including the position of Vice President of GE Aviation in France, to lead Airbus Commercial Aircraft Division for 3 years. Later, the executive was appointed General Manager of GE Aviation, Capital Aviation Services for Latin America and the Caribbean, and assumed the position of President and CEO of GE Brazil, a position held until his retirement in 2018. He also joined the board of directors of Azul Linhas Aéreas, and in July 2020, Giuberto was appointed head of country for Airbus in Brazil and chairman of the board of directors of Hepa, and the only helicopter manufacturer in the country, and a subsidiary of Airbus Helicopters. Giuberto, thank you very much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Roberto, for the introduction. Thank you, you all, for the organization. I will not extend the list here. I will steal it from Danielle. He already mentioned all the names in here. I'd like to make it mine. Thank you, Danielle. I have a brief presentation I'm going to share with you to talk about Airbus in Brazil. Let me just put that on the screen there. Share screen. And this one here, right? Are you seeing this? Okay. Uma apresentação onde aqui? All right, you seen this? Guys?
Yes, yes.
All right. That's a very interesting subject to talk about, because Airbus has been investing in Brazil for the last 43 years, to be more precise. When we did the assembly of our first helicopter in Brazil in the Itajubá plant. So Airbus thinks that Brazil is a very, very interesting market, very important market. So we've been doing this for a long time in here. This is even before we sold our first commercial airplane in Brazil. There was only till 1980, when Cruzeiro do Sul doesn't exist anymore, start flying our A300. So we were already investing in Brazil here. So having said that, Airbus is an international pioneer, is a company that started with an ambition. We were very innovative on coming out with the first twin jet wide body airplane in the industry. And this is back in the 70s, almost same time that Embraer started. So we still an ambitious company. Right now, our ambition is to be the first commercial airplane to fly with zero emission. A little bit different than Danielle and Embraer. We are taking lots of research and development on the hydrogen powered. So we think this is probably more feasible, but it's our research that is in the process. So we are the largest manufacturer of commercial airplanes, but we actuate also in the defense and the space and the helicopters. Evidently, Airbus is the largest conglomerate of aeronautics and the space of Europe. And we are worldwide leader in two of the fields that we operate. Airbus Commercial evidently is the forefront of our conglomerate, of our group, and very innovative airplanes we produce. We constantly in the last couple of years, we've been selling more than half of all the world orders. on the commercial airplanes. We understand this market deeply since the beginning, and with a focus on our customers, we develop a relationship that is second to none. And technological innovation is the beginning of the company. It is the current way company sees that. Over 13,000 airplanes delivered, and backlog and order book to total of 20,000 airplanes, over 20,000 airplanes today. Helicopters, Airbus is the largest manufacturer of helicopters in the world today, and we have the largest range too, from the smallest Squirrel, Brazil, we call it Skilo, which is a success, marketing success in Brazil, to the largest helicopter, which is the H225, that we manufacture in Brazil as well. It's interesting, we manufacture in Brazil the smallest helicopter and the largest helicopter. The largest helicopter is only military use, is for the 3 armed forces in Brazil. And we have the largest range of helicopters out there, you know, in terms of weight, takeoff weight capability. Over 150 countries operate our helicopters, 3,000 operators, and the number of hours, almost 3 million out there. We are also in the aerospace, world class. We are the largest in Europe, and very innovative. We don't only put in the air satellites, but we do a big range of military airplanes and others business on the communications and image. And we also, besides putting satellites in the air, we also sell services of satellite images. Unfortunately, we cannot use Alcantara, you know, base, because we have our own launching nearby Alcantara in Acuru, French Guiana. So in Brazil, basically, we started, as I said, back in the 80s in Itajubá. We have 6 sites. Manufacturing site is Itajubá. One interesting thing about it is that only 8 countries out there have full capability of producing airplanes and helicopters. And actually, airplanes only 5, only 8. Well, it's 2 more, but it's a very interesting thing for Brazil. And in the southern hemisphere, Brazil is the only one that produces helicopters turbine powered. There is producers of piston engine helicopters, small helicopters, but not turbine power. We have also presence in Rio de Janeiro with our customer support there, with training center capability for the helicopters. Bonded our house to distribute parts in Brazil for our helicopter base, and our MRO here in São Paulo, where I'm speaking from. So we do have a footprint in Brazil. Oh, forgetting this, we are in São José dos Campos too, at Technology Park. You know, this is a very important initiative. We started 2 years ago. We are leader in Brazil of the commercial helicopters, evidently, because we produce them in Brazil. So more than 500 employees in Brazil. Commercial airplanes, we have 107, is the largest fleet in Brazil. For you guys to understand, 2 out of the 3 operators in Brazil operate with our equipment. The 4th one coming online with commercial aviation is going to be also powered by Airbus. Helicopters, over 650 in operation. We sold over 800, but 650 is still in operation. Over 60% market share, almost 70. On the military, we are bigger than this. In the commercial, around that too. Military operation in Brazil, over 24 airplanes operating with Brazilian Air Force. So innovation in Brazil and our presence, besides the Itajubá operation, the plant we have in there, we are in the technological part, and thanks to also is here. So it's a very important presence we have in there. We have 5 people working in there, operating from there. We have lots of Brazilians that work at Airbus in Toulouse, but we never had that in Brazil. So now we develop innovation in Brazil. These guys are basically developing air traffic management programs and aircraft design optimization. This is all based in São José dos Campos. And, they operating using big data, machine learning, and so on. This is a partnership, and we're very happy with that. And kudos to the organization. It's a very nice partnership we have today with the ITA, in Instituto Tecnológico Aeronáutica. This is very important for us, and it shows leading edge that Brazil is in the technology. So São José dos Campos is the center of it, but it is spread in Brazil. So it's a very important industry. We know that, and in Airbus, as I said, I'm just repeating myself, we have lots of engineers formed in São José dos Campos that work in Embraer, that work for our operation in Toulouse. We rely on that source of brain knowledge and brain capability there. And finally, Airbus is very involved with the country. We are dedicated. We have social responsibility here, not only with our international programs like Flights Challenge, but also Elibras in Itajubá. There's lots of local programs with the communities and develop the environment and the social environment in Itajubá. So having said that, this is what I have to say. I just want to emphasize the importance of the aeronautical industry in Brazil. And we know that for over 40 years. We've been operating in here, working out of Brazil, selling, but just not selling, building and developing in Brazil. So, we really appreciate the opportunity, and that's all I had for the moment. Open for the questions after this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giuberto. And for our final presentation, before we'll have a little discussion, I would like to introduce Landon. Landon Lewin is Vice President of Point Company for Global Policy and Managing Director of Boeing Brazil. Is based in São Paulo and reports directly to Mr. Michael Arthur, President of Boeing International. Landon coordinates non-US government affairs and policy work, including geopolitical analysis and underpinning key Boeing decision-making. Works with Boeing's country and regional leaders on sales campaigns and business growth initiatives, while strengthening relationships with foreign governments and other important stakeholder groups outside the US. As is his role in Boeing Brazil, Lewin is responsible for leading company strategy, developing business and industrial partnerships, expanding stakeholder relationships, and leading Boeing's productivity and enterprise functions in Brazil. So, Landon, thank you very much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Rodrigo. Thank you to Apex, to Sergio, and Elena for organizing this event. Elcio, our friends at the Tech Park, for supporting. I want to recognize my fellow panelists, Danielle and Giuberto. It's good to speak with you all on this panel this morning. I think the first point I'd like to make, just speaking to this question about the state of our industry as an investment prospect here in Brazil, from the Boeing perspective, the first point is that we've been here a long time. We had our first engagement with our Brazilian counterparts, and our relationship with Brazil started almost 9 decades ago with the Brazilian Air Force. It's been 89 years, so we're now up to 89 years. And from that point, we've grown really important, deep, long-standing commercial relationships on the services side. We sold our first commercial aircraft to Brazil in 1960 through Varig, a key part of the Brazilian aviation history. We now have our products throughout the entire system, all three major airlines in the cargo market. Of course, GOL is an all Boeing fleet, represents the 5th largest 737 fleet in the world, as a matter of fact. And these are the sorts of relationships that we're very invested in. We built over time and are absolutely vested in building them into the future. Underneath the defense and services portions of our business, we have a strong services business that helps maintain and sustain those aircraft as they operate and conduct their missions. And beyond our commercial and defense and services business, we have a really deep and long-standing commitment to our investments in the long-term partnerships across Brazil. That looks, it takes different shapes. One of them is the establishment of our technology center in São José dos Campos, which we opened in 2014, and has been key in helping drive and innovate new technology that is necessary for the growth of our industry. Just as an example, from the end of last year, our engineers based in São José dos Campos innovated a new stochastic air traffic management tool, web application that airlines could use to fly in more efficient routes, saving fuel, saving time, and saving money. The success of that project was commercialized and is now being distributed to our aviation partners around the world. But that's the sort of differentiated example and technological innovation that really comes out of our partnerships from Brazil and that we're very proud of. We have research partnerships with universities across the country, driving a lot of these kind of specific industry-related technologies, but also focusing on sustainability. The sustainability that both of my colleagues mentioned, I'll get into it a bit in my presentation, is absolutely key as the industry itself thinks about the way forward, the road ahead, and what the challenges that we have to tackle in the future. And being able to leverage our relationships and the technological expertise in Brazil to tackle that sustainability challenges is key. So with that, I will go to the next slide. Here, I'm going to stop talking about Boeing for a moment and just talk about the reality of where our industry finds itself. My colleagues have referenced it, but I think to me it's important just to spend a second and kind of ask ourselves, where is the aviation industry today? This graph is a graph of passenger traffic mapped over the last 40 years. And when I look at this graph, I see two things. The first thing I see, looking at that dotted blue line, is that we are in a completely unprecedented situation. The industry's never seen a decline like the one that we experienced as a result of the COVID pandemic. That's the first thing I see. But the second thing I see is the incredible sustained resilience of our industry over time. So that first dip that you see that says 3 years, that was 9/11. Now, for those of us in the US, every single person can tell you where they were on that day. And of course, it stopped aviation traffic across the country. And it began a moment of extreme uncertainty in our industry and in the United States. And yet, it was only 3 years before the industry got back on track and continued that along that red upward trajectory. Then we had the global financial crisis, which until COVID was the worst financial crisis we'd seen since the Great Depression. That stopped traffic as well. But immediately, after 2 years, the aviation industry not only started growing again, but it got back on and above its trendline growth. So as we think about where we are, we have to acknowledge that we're in an unprecedented situation. And yet we also need to believe in the proven resilience of our industry. And that's the future that we're building on globally at Boeing, but not just globally. Latin America and the Caribbean and Brazil in particular have a very specific and important role to play in that story. So that takes us to kind of our current market outlook. What does the market for Latin America, which includes Brazil, look like for over the next 20 years? We just updated our forecast last month, and the news is good. I think now, as an aviation industry, good news is welcome. There's not always a ton of it, so let's when we do see some good news, let's talk about it. The fact is that same graph we saw before, which charts passenger traffic, the Boeing assessment is that Latin American growth in Latin America, not globally, but in our region, over the next 20 years, average growth is going to exceed 5%. So 5% growth rate sustained over 20 years, that is what drives investment. And that is what we're excited about when we look at the region. But let me acknowledge quickly the reality of where we are, and then we can move on, because we are not out of COVID yet. For those of us, I'm based here in Sao Paulo, and for those of us here certainly know that we are not out of the woods yet. And because that's true, I really do want to highlight the great work that not only Boeing, but that Boeing is doing together, working very closely with Embraer, with Airbus, with across the aviation industry to help drive confidence in the travel experience, and to help reinforce all of the work that we are doing and continue to do to ensure the health and safety of all the passengers in their travel experience. Now, we are fierce competitors, as everybody on this call knows. But when it comes to the health and safety of our travelers and confidence in the travel system, we work together. I've been involved since I started in my role last year, briefing regulators with my colleagues, talking to relevant stakeholders, sharing research about what new methodologies can be deployed inside the aircraft and in the travel journey to help keep people safe, and also highlighting the existing technologies that are out there that help us all feel confident in traveling. Now, one statistic that to me is really important as we think about the decision to travel and in these current circumstances. In 2020, last year, before there was a vaccine, and while we were in the middle of COVID, there were 2.1 billion passenger trips taken last year. 2.1 billion trips, and there were less than 60 known cases of transmission on an aircraft. That number alone just tells us it's very, very, very unlikely to be exposed to the virus and have a transmission occur on an aircraft. Medical research and a lot of our research, working closely with governments and with universities, emphasizes and reinforces that. But it's a good thing to know. Now, that's the result of a lot of really hard work, but by all of us, to keep the virus from getting on the airplane, to ensure the airplane itself is free of that virus, and then to minimize transmission aboard. I'm going to highlight just quickly a few technologies that are key to that, just so that everyone is aware of them. One is the Hepa filter. So there's a filter on each of our aircraft that is the same quality of an air filtration system that you would find in an ICU unit of a hospital. We've worked closely with university partners and the government to test new technologies. In fact, we've got an antimicrobial technology being tested right now on the International Space Station, which, when proved, can be deployed on aircraft. The air circulation system inside the airplane circulates air every 2 to 3 minutes, which means that the air inside of an airplane is probably the safest air that you will encounter anywhere in your day or week. Now that's COVID. I want to acknowledge that and then move on to that's the challenge we face today. The challenge we face kind of in the future, both of my colleagues highlighted it, is really about the sustainability of our industry and the emissions that it produces. So this week on April 22nd, President Biden will host a global climate summit. Boeing is helping support that effort because we absolutely believe in the message that we're hearing from governments around the world, that we must attack climate change in a holistic, enthusiastic, and ambitious frame of mind. Now, our industry has made ambitious and voluntary commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to cut all emissions in half, like to take the 2005 level of emissions and cut it in half by 2050. That's our goal. It's kind of hard to say and understand, but it's ambitious. The question is, how do we get there? How are we actually going to do that? Well, in our mind, and we've heard about 2 other technologies from our colleagues, in our mind, there's only a single proven technology that is actually capable of bending the emissions curve fast enough to meet that goal. So there's a lot of really promising technology on the horizon, and Boeing is deeply invested in all of it. But if the goal is to cut 2005 emissions by 2050, there's only a single proven way to do it, and that's sustainable aviation fuels, which can cut the emissions of a given unit, a trip by 50 to 80%. Now, that's good news for Brazil, because Brazil presents an incredible combination of factors that help it position itself as an essential, not just an important, but an essential partner in attaining the scale production necessary of sustainable aviation fuels for our industry to reach its ambitious targets. Brazil is already a leader in aviation, as our friends from Embraer, represent. It's already a leader in energy. It's already a leader in agriculture. You take those three and combine them, and you have a great partner on sustainable aviation fuels. Plus the fact that it's the second largest producer of biofuels in the world today, second only to the United States, responsible for 25% of global production and larger than the next 8 countries combined. So Brazil's a powerhouse, and it can play a really decisive role in helping us as an industry overcome the single challenge we face, which is to dramatically increase the scale of production. So Brazil's key. Now, Boeing, we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. For us on sustainable aviation fuels, it's an essential technology, and we really want to lead on this. So what we've done just over the last couple of months, taken several concrete steps in this direction. First, we've named our first ever Chief Sustainability Officer, which anyone operating in a large company or in a government knows you need a leader who can help push out this priority and this message across our diverse footprint globally. And that person has been in place now since last September and is driving change across the company. We also announced that last year we were net carbon zero for all of our production and manufacturing and office sites across the world. And the third step was that we committed in January to certifying all of our aircraft to 100% sustainable by 2030. So that's a significant commitment that then gets pushed down through our supply chain and helps drive change on this important topic. As I said, Brazil is an important partner in this journey that we're taking as an industry. And luckily for us, and Boeing, as Boeing here in Brazil, we have a long history dating back more than 10 years of working on sustainability and sustainable aviation fuels in Brazil. So we have an ongoing partnership with the Roundtable for Sustainable Biofuels. We've invested more than $2 million on initiatives that maximize social, economic, and environmental benefits to local communities engaged in these efforts. We helped provide research data and inputs as part of the process to define the Renova Bio policy, which is Brazil's biofuels policy, a key cornerstone of the policy environment that's going to drive this change. Embraer was actually the first OEM partner to ever partner with Boeing on Eco Demonstrator in 2016, and we did a lot of really great work helping test and deploy technologies related to environmental sustainability and emissions reduction. And we partnered also with Embraer and FAPESP and Unicamp and others to write the roadmap for sustainable aviation fuels in Brazil. There are many different pathways that the feedstock that goes into fuels could come from, and Brazil offers a really wide and rich variety of what those solutions might look like. This roadmap was a technical document that helps advance understanding of where and how the best ways to advance this agenda might come from. So aside from the conversations of our COVID environment and the challenges we face with the environment looking forward, I do want to highlight our supply chain commitments globally and the opportunities that exist here in Brazil as well. Boeing has a large supply chain network, as you might imagine, 13,000 suppliers worldwide, most of them in the United States, but we do expand across 48 countries and 6 continents. It's a large base, and what drives our interest in these supply chain relationships are really accesses to resources, scarce resources and raw materials, to excellent talent and human resources, and of course the capability of the companies to meet stringent quality standards that are how we and our colleagues manage their supply chain relationships. So we have a large base. We continue to look for additional suppliers, and we encourage our friends in Brazil to take us up on this interest. We did have the opportunity to work with the Tech Park in São José dos Campos. Just last month, Boeing hosted a supplier development event, our summit in Seattle, which was held virtually this year because of the pandemic. But there were 24 Brazilian suppliers that were able to participate and present themselves, learn about our process, and we could learn about their capabilities. And we're following up with the Tech Park now to continue that engagement. So that's the kind of exchange of information, of networking that we want to encourage. For us, the principles that we use to select our partners is pretty straightforward. An absolutely uncompromising commitment to safety and quality. That's the most important thing. We do that by building relationships built on diversity and trust. And we have high expectations and high quality standards. Perfect parts and services delivered on time, every time. That's the framework, the cultural framework, if you will, of our supply chain network. So with that, I'll conclude. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of Boeing. As I said, it's a long relationship that we've had here in Brazil, one that we take very seriously, and we look forward to working together to tackling the challenges of the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Landon. Thank you for the three speakers, Danielle, Giuberto, and Landon. I would like to address to all of you one consideration or one question that I would like you to give us your thoughts. So for each one of you, in your view and experience and knowledge of the aerospace sector, what would be main points of attention that a foreign company should take into account when making the decision to enter the Brazilian aerospace market? So as we are focusing on our fellow foreign companies to join us in the Brazilian industry, so on your point of view, would be some points of attention for these companies to take into account. And I will do the loop again, starting with Danielle, please. Danielle, what do you think about that?
Sure. Thank you, Rodrigo. I would say, just highlighting some of the points I touched very briefly in my speech, but highly relevant for we believe, right, for an external company willing to invest in Brazil. The first highlight is really the fantastic pool of talents that we have. We acknowledge that the new competition, right, the new war out there as the market recovers is going to be all about talents. And especially when it comes to science, mathematics, engineering, we know it has been a challenge for many, I would say, advanced economies in the world to motivate the young generations to join those careers. And as a matter of fact, this has not been a problem here in Brazil, which I think is great. We've been experiencing a great, I would say, availability of talent. And as I also mentioned, we do have some top engineering schools, of course, ITA, where Embraer originally came from, but many other schools that I could easily mention here: University of São Paulo, Unicamp, Federal de Santa Catarina, Federal de Minas Gerais. I'm certainly being unfair to many others that I won't have time to mention, but it's a fantastic pool of talent. And this, I think, is a major driver as we think long-term and as we think sustainable investments. The other point I think Landon touched very well in his speech is that Brazil is really a big world power when it comes to renewables and biofuels, and this can be a real game changer for the future of aerospace. So I think this creates an ecosystem in terms of, again, innovation, technology, partner companies that can play a very important role in this future. And finally, just not to say that as a Brazilian, I'm only speaking the positive aspects. We all know, and it's often said that Brazil is not for the beginners. And we do have still, I would say, a complex set of laws and set of regulations that needs to be taken into account. But that's where the role of an agency like Apex can make all the difference, right? There are agencies and specialized also areas of the government that can support the investor to navigate through I would say, the challenges that we have as we keep working hard to improve it. I also made some reference to some positive reforms that we have been seeing and that we hope will continue. But I highlight the role of agencies like Apex. Finally, just to name another agency that I should have mentioned in my speech, but I think it's really key when we think aviation in Brazil, is ANAC. The fact that we have really one of the top agencies when it comes to certification, safety, ensuring, I would say, the very high level of our operation and industry here in Brazil, combining, of course, with the SEA from the Brazilian Air Force that handles the Brazilian airspace, which is pretty large, it's like the size of a continent. I would say these are top agencies in terms of their resources, their talent, their processes that rank, I would say, very close to FAA and EASA. And I think this provides a comfort to anybody who is part of the industry, who is willing to invest in this industry, is that you can count on the support of the team inside ANAC. The SEA really makes a huge difference. And it's really a part of the confidence we have in the market here in Brazil.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Giuberto, would you share your thoughts with us, please?
Yeah, I'll take some of the points from Danielle, and I agree with that. But Danielle is from a Brazilian company, so Embraer is located in Brazil, started in Brazil. His point of view has to be with that. I would think that Boeing in the same way. We take a different look. We gotta look Brazil. And when I was in GE, I used to sell internally that not the beginners, but Brazil is for professionals. If you're amateur, don't come to Brazil. So for professionals, the market is big. The development of the country is amazing. The level of the schools Brazil have is just at the same level of other countries. So that's why we have lots of Brazilians that go to Boeing, to Airbus, and other companies, or Bombardier, the past. So this is known. I think if someone wants to come to Brazil and put a business here, needs to look the long term. There is no plans for Brazil in the short term. You got to look long term. You gotta be able to understand that you got to be resilient. Crises are there. This is what Brazil is, and this is the way you should manage your investments in Brazil. So when a company like Airbus comes to Brazil in the early 80s, late 70s, they take the decision. Look at the situation, the political situation. We've been in Brazil for 43 years. So it is long-term investment. We have our ups and downs, but so far so good. So we're gonna stay here for another 40 years minimum. So it is you have to take the look of the long-term investment. You have to take the look of the young country we are, and resilient to the changes, resilient to the problems that we face every other day. It is what it is. So in industry that wants to invest in here, this is the way they needs to take a look. And I mentioned GE again because GE was in Brazil. He's in Brazil for over 100 years, and the investment that they made in Brazil in all sectors is amazing. So it's same thing with Airbus. We put a training center in here, a helicopter manufacturing distribution center for parts. We help the country. I think for Brazil, Brumadinho, for example, accident. We were available for the operation in merely 8 hours after the announcement of the problem. So we are there present with our team, engineers and technicians. 100% of the helicopters that operate in there were Airbus helicopters. And we did not make a plan or ask anybody. We just jump on it and start helping. This is the way it works, because if we were waiting for government ask or any help, we would not be able to do this. This is the way we look Brazil. It is fascinating. It is not for beginners, like Danielle said. I say it's for professionals. And Brazil is good. So we love it.
Excellent, Giuberto. Thank you very much. And then I'll pass to Landon to share your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Rodrigo. I'm gonna agree with Giuberto. We love Brazil as well. I think. Let me just summarize some of what's already been said, because I think we see it in many similar ways. But to me, when I'm describing Brazil, I think the first thing is just you have to emphasize its size. If you sort the world by countries, and you say you impose 3 criteria, and you say I want only countries that are larger than, whose economies are larger than $1.5 trillion, who have more territory than 5 million square kilometers, and who have more than 150 million people. There are only 3 countries in the world that fit that category: the United States, China, and Brazil. So it's enormous. That's the first point. And that's not just an interesting fact. That has direct consequences for our industry. And until the recent spike in COVID really changed the trajectory, Brazil's recovery in the aviation sector was, as a domestic market, was actually outpacing the United States. Because it's big as a domestic market, it can survive, and it has its own dynamics. So as we think about that 20-year projection that I talked about, it's actually going to be faster in Brazil. As soon as you have to get COVID under control first, right? That's the prerequisite. But once that's true, then the size of Brazil begins to take on its own trajectory, and that's good for the industry. It's good for the region, and it's good for Brazil. So I think the first point to make is just its size. The second point, summarizing what we've already heard, is that it really does have truly unique capability in terms of human resources, university and research institutions who plug into that and lead and shape that talent. And I agree, I was going to mention it, Danielle, I'm glad you did, ANAC as a globally recognized regulator. So every country has a regulator. Not every country has ANAC. ANAC is truly unique. It sat on the board. It's the JOEB, the globally recognized advisory board that helps set regulatory agendas for the world. Brazil's sitting on that table, right? So there's a unique leadership role that Brazil is playing in our industry. And while the obvious, there are challenges, right? Brazil faces challenges. It's a tumultuous place to operate and do business. However, the defining characteristics for me are emblematic or kind of personified by the airport privatizations that were successfully oversubscribed just last week, and by the current government's commitment to reform. They articulated the need for economic reform, and in truly unprecedented times have been taking steps in that direction. I was part of the effort to support Brazil's OECD application as well. That's not about the United States or Brazil. That's about Brazil's intentions for itself to help improve the business environment. So these are all long-term projects, but they indicate a direction that the country is committed to. And I think that is good for investors, because Giuberto is absolutely right. This is not about a short-term transaction. These are about long-term relationships. And when that's true, you've got to say, okay, which direction are we going over the long term? And I think that commitments like the OECD and the economic reforms we see help us indicate that direction. However, it's not perfect, and I think that as we think about the rise and importance of e-commerce and cargo, we've seen cargo explode all over the world. If you look at any objective measure of Brazil's kind of trade facilitation and the movement of goods just within the country, it's very complicated. That complication adds cost and uncertainty in one of the markets that's growing the most in our industry, in the cargo kind of in space. So I think that's I'd say an area of attention that policymakers would probably be would be a useful area to focus on, because improvements there could have a benefit and impacts elsewhere. But thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Lyndon. Well, we are getting to our time, so I would like to thank you. It was a pleasure for me. I learned a lot from all of you. Danielle, Giuberto, and Lyndon, thank you very, very much for sharing with us your thoughts and your views. I believe that it was we are making a milestone here for our industry, for our efforts to support the Brazilian industry, and having three of you talking to us here was of great value to all of us. So thank you very much. And I'm going to get back to Elena. Thank you, Elena. It's with you.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo, and our speakers, Danielle, Giuberto, and Landon. Now, before our next panel, we're gonna hear the pitch of 3 Brazilian companies ready to establish partnerships with foreign companies. First, we're gonna hear LASE, an electronic engineering company specialized in development and manufacturing of complex equipment and systems. Then we're gonna have XMobots, the largest Brazilian and Latin American company in the segment of RPA, remotely pilot aircrafts. Closing the first block of pitch, we present Avionics Services, a traditional Brazilian company in the segment of avionics equipment and services. And once again, if you have completed your profile on our website, please feel free to request meetings with those Brazilian companies and ApexBrasil. The online meetings will be available throughout the week.
Hello everyone, my name is Henrique de Faria, CEO of LASE. LASE has been developing electronic hardware for more than 5 years, such as our lightning protection devices, which integrate the Embraer C390 defense aircraft and the Praetor executive jets. But today, I will speak about innovative energy solutions for the aerospace industry, state-of-the-art batteries. Most of the existing batteries has energy density limitations, and the modern ones are facing flight safety issues. To solve these problems, we've launched LASE battery. It is 65% lighter than the lead-acid versions, and it's safe since it doesn't ignite fire. The technology is already existent in aeronautical applications. It uses the least volatile chemicals, making a winning proposal for high-performance batteries, which are economically viable, non-toxic, and environmentally friendly. The market is booming. The aircraft battery market alone is valued at $600 million, but it's growing fast with new players rising such as Eve, Lilium, and Aviation. We will charge $5,000 to $10,000 on series production batteries. The aftermarket customers, 4 times that number. Replacement shall occur every 5 years. At LASE, we strive to make complex products simpler. I'm the CEO, also responsible for manufacturing. I graduated at ITA, and I hold more than 15 years experience in aviation. Sancler Nunes is our CTO. He's member of SAE work group with deep expertise in development of complex products. Rodrigo Junqueira is our CMO with a double diploma in engineering and an MBA in business and economics. He has more than 12 years experience in sales. Together, we have launched 4 winning products to the market. We've started the product R&D last year with seed government funding, and we've been certified for AS 9100 quality management system. We are building the first prototypes, and next year we will start product certification and V1 product release. By 2023, we will be ready for the entry into service, and we shall reach the break-even 3 years later. We are looking for strategic partners to invest $1 million in our project to help us release the V1 product, grow the team, and get the certifications and license. Should you want to help us innovate in the aeronautical business, get in touch. Here's my contact information. Thank you for your time.
In agriculture, NGO projects stays ahead who present the best productivity. To map larger areas in less time and keep your costs low is practically impossible when counting on the drones usually offered in the market. Their low autonomy and the impossibility of flying BVLOS and above 400 feet force them to execute more flights, spending time and increasing costs at the operations. And what if you had to count on more than one drone not only to map, but also to spray your crops? That's a sad and very expensive reality today. These are problems solved with XMobot drones, Arato, Exá, and Tractor. Arato and Exá are fixed-wing drones that present high autonomy thanks to their unique lithium-ion batteries, which deliver a very high lifespan. So, they can execute many flights with no need to buy and change batteries all the time. And these two drones are also the only ones certified by ANAC to execute long-range BVLOS flights, above 400 feet, meaning they can map large areas in less time. And if you need to map in spray, you can count on Dracto, the only drone that maps and performs located spray in a single equipment. So you can cut costs just by counting on Dracto. These innovative products, as well as softwares, solutions, and hardware, are all developed and manufactured by XMobiles, resulting in a tight integration, easier operation, as well as a quick and efficient maintenance, spare parts sales, and technical support. Over 150 high-qualified employees, 8 of them PhD and R&D engineers, hundreds of satisfied clients, and a heavy investment in technology make XMobiles, a 14-year company, the #1 in drones in Latin America and 15th in the world ranking according to Drone. Our addressable market goes beyond agriculture. We develop professional drones that can be used in defense security, inspection, surveillance, cargo, and also delivery. And this incredible addressable market will increase from $28 billion this year to $144 billion in 2028. And talking about outstanding growth, XMobiles had an incredible 53% CAGR from 2013 to 2019. In 2019, a private equity fund managed by Confrapa invested $8 million in XMobiles during Series A investment. And this month, we've just started the process to get a new fundraising, a $30 million Series B investment. So, Bradesco BBI has joined us as our advisor for this new round. Dream big with us. Invest in best drone company in Latin America.
Hi, my name is João Batista Vernini. I'm Avionics Service CEO. I would like to introduce the company. Avionics Service is an aerospace company with 25 years old in the market. We have all the certification necessary to accomplish our mission. We are a corporate with shareholders 60% Brazilian and 40 European. We have two main bases in São Paulo and Botucatu, close to Embraer. Our main activity is to modify and retrofit of aircraft and also produce some equipment to line fit. We are providing service for maintenance of our products and the third parties too. We act as a retrofit and modification for the military and civilian aircraft, fixed wing and helicopters. Our main customers are the defense forces and also civilian forces. Our OEMs like Embraer and Calidus, our customers. Our main customers is the Colombian Air Force, Chilean, Brazilian Air Force for sure, and Honduras and UAE. Our main capability is to provide a turnkey solution for these customers, and so this is our most important tools. Also, we can provide the solutions for interiors, including commercial jets and VIPs. On the engineering side, we can provide the full turnkey project, including the full certification with the authorities, EASA, FAA, and ANAC. Other than only integration for a system, we can design and produce equipment, electronic boxes, like we produce to Embraer, more than 70 items provided to line fit. Also, we are working on the UAVs, the new goal for the market. We have a solution for smaller and bigger ones. The market around the world, it's a big open door now with more than 15 billion potential. What is your goal? Modernization and retrofit around the world. What is our need? We are looking for partners to bring us technology and also finance support. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, I would like to call the second panel, which will discuss soft landing in Brazil, partnerships, financing, and R&D incentives. For this moment, we're gonna have Mr. Roberto Scotto, Head of the Investment Department at ApexBrasil, Mr. Alberto Dantas, Director of Innovation at FINEP, Dr. Jorge Almeida Guimarães, President Director at Embrapi, and Mr. Carlos Eduardo, Director of Embrapi, and Mr. Gustavo Montezano, President of BNDES. Mr. Roberto Scotto, you may begin.
Thank you, Elena. My greetings to all of you who joined us today. Now, I will give you a brief overview of what ApexBrasil can do to help you from the moment you start considering investing in Brazil through the beginning of operations in our country and all the way to the development of your company's presence in Brazil. But before that, I'd like to answer the most important question for every investor. Why invest in Brazil? First of all, because it's a continental country of 8,500 square kilometers that is very rich in natural resources. It has fertile soil and abundant water for agribusiness, many natural and energy resources, besides the largest biodiversity of the planet. Brazil has a big and diversified industrial park. The industry represents 21% of GDP, 70% of exports of assets and services, and 72% of private investments in research and development. Despite the pandemic, according to the Getúlio Vargas Foundation, Brazil's industrial confidence index continues high. Besides being a large consumer market with 210 million inhabitants, Brazil is also a platform for exports to other markets. The financial sector is highly sophisticated and allows strong access to debt instruments as well as domestic and foreign markets. The national legislation does not discriminate against foreign investments. Besides that, the federal government is fully committed to making the regulatory environment even more business-friendly. Brazil has the largest infrastructure portfolio in the world, with hundreds of projects in which you can invest with legal certainty, transparency, and predictability. There are ample openings for private investment in the aerospace sector. It's important to note that Brazil was the 6th global foreign direct investment destination in 2019. Moreover, according to the US consultancy firm A.T. Kearney, Brazil is among the 25 most reliable countries for foreign direct investment. The mission of ApexBrasil is to promote Brazilian exports, attract foreign investments, support Brazilian companies to expand internationally, provide market intelligence, provide export qualification, and promote Brazil as a global business partner. Apex has 5 regional offices in Brazil, 9 overseas offices, besides working in close coordination with 121 trade promotion sections of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Currently, Apex is supporting 14,000 companies, which account for 30% of Brazilian exports. In the last 10 years, Apex supported more than 1,500 foreign companies and investment funds, which invested $28.5 billion in Brazil. Apex is the one-stop shop for foreign investors, which is linked to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and works in partnership with the São José dos Campos Technology Park, the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, and the Brazilian Space Agency to promote and facilitate investments in the aerospace sector. Investors are supported in establishing or expanding operations in Brazil. They have our help in starting a partnership with a Brazilian company and in finding suppliers. Investors can commit capital in Brazil through funds and companies with our advice, and they can count on Apex custom-made market intelligence for supporting strategic decisions. Apex also supports foreign investment funds seeking opportunities for venture capital and private equity allocation in Brazil, facilitating contact with Brazilian funds, companies, and startups. Apex supports investors in the identification of suitable locations, besides providing general information on potential costs, business environment, and talent pool availability. Using an extensive network, ApexBrasil also acts as liaison between foreign investors and regulatory and local authorities. We arrange one-on-one meetings between investors and public and private local stakeholders, besides organizing investment roundtables. Apex organizes business seminars like the ones which happened in China in 2019, in India, and in the United States in 2020. Since the very beginning of this pandemic, Apex has a hot site for supporting Brazilian companies and foreign investors, particularly providing updated and qualified information regarding all the measures introduced by the federal government to overcome the economic crisis. You will find more information on the Invest in Brazil LinkedIn profile and also on our investment website, investinbrazil.com.br. To conclude, I'd like to highlight that foreign investors have showed confidence in Brazil's economy in the long term because we are a resilient country which overcame other crises and will succeed again. Finally, let me state that ApexBrasil stands ready to assist foreign companies wishing to invest in Brazil, a country of millions of people and opportunities. If you are interested in more information, we can help you in scheduling bilateral meetings through the email investinbrazil@apexbrasil.com.br. The ApexBrasil investment team will be pleased to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Escoto. And following, I would like to call Mr. Alberto Dantas from FINEP. Mr. Dantas, you may begin.
Thank you, Elena. Good morning, everyone. I will share my screen. A moment, please. Okay, are you seeing it?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Alberto Dantas, and I'm FINEP's Innovation Director. On behalf of President Valdemar Barroso Magno Neto, I would thank the invitation to take place in this conference. Besides the importance of agenda and exchange of knowledge and best practice, this event is a great opportunity to discuss financing, research, and development incentives to aerospace sector in Brazil and present partnership opportunities. Now I present how FINEP uses funding instruments, international cooperation actions to support the aerospace agenda. FINEP is a Portuguese acronym for Studies and Projects Financiers. It's a public company with more than 50 years of history linked to the Ministry of Science, Technology, Innovation. It aims to promote the socio-economic Brazilian development through the support of science, technology, and innovation companies, universities, research institutes, and other public and private institutions. This slide shows how FINEP supports science, technology, and innovation in Brazil. Here in Brazil, FINEP is the only institution that supports all the science, technology, and innovation chain, the well-known technology readiness levels. From science infrastructure, basic research through applied research, going through technology development, innovative development of products, processes, and services to the prototypes and market introduction. FINEP has 3 types of instruments. First, grants and markets for research institutes and companies. The 2 other instruments are concessional loans and equity that focus only on innovation projects. Through these instruments, we develop programs and products that can be thematic and are focused according to the profile of the potential beneficiary. On grants to companies, we mainly focus on micro, small, and medium ones through public calls. So, when you talk about innovation projects, these programs can support by the initial idea, like Centelha program, to innovation big companies, like direct support through concessional loans. The query runs through public calls, the selection of venture capital funds, with the objective to encouraging the financing of national technology-based companies. Still talking on the topic of investments, we also have the co-option to startups, the base of our FINEP Startups program. We also provide concessional loans for all sizes of companies, with the rates and grace period varying according to the level of innovation and strategic importance of the Brazilian government, and the application can be done at any time without the need of public calls. Now, a bit more about our international cooperation initiatives. As you can see in the slide, we have bilateral cooperation with many European agencies and joint activities with European initiatives like Eureka Global Stars, GPI, and RME. This proximity and well-succeeded partnership allowed to step further our administrative arrangements with the European Union. On the other side, our proximity with the Latin American countries is quite recent, but the MOU signed with Argentina this year and the Constitution of Latin American Network of Innovation agencies rely shows their will to strengthen also the regional relationship in science, technology, and innovation. So far, we launched 8 bilateral agreements. We have now 10 ongoing projects, 5 in oil and gas with Research Council of Norway, 2 in innovation technology and energy efficiency with the CDTI from Spain, and 3 ongoing projects in aeronautics with Vinnova from Sweden. It's highlighted in this slide. The Geostationary Defense and Strategic Communication Satellite, or SGDC in Portuguese, is a Brazilian geostationary communication satellite launched into space on May 2017 to provide broadband internet and communications to Brazilian government and the Brazilian Armed Forces. I would like to highlight this initiative that operates through 2 public calls where FINEP supported companies by grants. The diagram shows a partnership with Brazilian Space Agency, AEB, which has a cooperation agreement between Thales Alenia Space, a French-Italy company, and Brazilian companies like Opto, Orbital, and others. FINEP has always supported the aeronautical sector. This support has been relevant to the success of Embraer in producing the Tucano and the Legacy jet. Tucano is a Brazilian turboprop light attack aircraft designed and built by Embraer. In the early days of the 80s, Tucano received financial support from FINEP for Embraer and came to replace the T-37 jet from Cessna Aircraft. The Legacy project began in the early 2000s, with FINEP support. Today, the jet is one of the most enterprising, innovative design jets in the world, and is put the leader among mid-sized aircrafts. Launched last February 28 at Shirakota Launch Center in India, the Amazonia First satellite is the first Earth observation satellite completely designed, integrated, tested, and operated by Brazil. The strong support from FINEP to Brazilian space program was essential for development of this technology to Brazil. Now I will show you briefly FINEP's agenda for the aerospace sector. We are working hard on support technology that are the forefront of innovation, such as Space Launch Center rocks and spacecrafts, electrical aircraft greener airplanes, new space small satellites, and space application service. We also support technologies for the governmental programs and the national institutions, such as National Institute for Space Research and the Brazilian Space Agency. And last but not least, I'm going to give a spoiler here. We're organizing, so I don't have much information yet, but very soon we will be launching a new program for the sector. Coming soon, the Inova Espaço, or in English, the Inova Space. I would like to thank this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dantas. Now, I would like to call Dr. Jorge Almeida, President Director at Embrapi, and Mr. Carlos Eduardo, Director at Embrapi.
Muito bom dia a todos. Prazer muito grande. I'm sorry. Very nice organization. I thank very much Apex for the invitation for this important meeting. I will be talking about the role of Embrapi in this the subject that been discussed in this summit. Please. Embrapi is a very new organization. Brazil is the youngest one. We are now at about 7 years of operation. It's a private, not-for-profit organization with a contract with Brazilian ministers, science and technology, education and health. And our mission is to finance industrial innovation in Brazil. Besides these three ministers, we also have been funded by other systems such as Manufacturing 4.0, international IoT, mobility through the so-called Rota 2030 for the automobile system, and I have agreement of partnership with SEBRAE for small and middle-sized companies doing innovation. And we also must point that we have a very nice cooperation with BNDES, and I'm sure that Mr. Montezano will talk about several things on BNDES, but I hope that we can extend the cooperation we have together to cover this very important aspect of innovation, the aerospace system. Oh, okay, we work actually at this so-called Death Valley, which is the project that has a maturity enough to be defined as a final product for the companies. We do not support basic science, and also work on this TRL, this technology readiness level. From 3 to 6 is very important because this is a complementary system for FINEP, as we just saw from Dr. Alberto Dantas, the important role of FINEP, and also for BNDES, because then they can work on level 7 to 9, which means the production of the products were developed at level TRL 6. Okay, you work on this bridge in this valley of death. We support companies in the development of innovative technology applied to new products. We increase the competitiveness of companies in national and international market, focus on business demands. The projects comes from the companies. They do not belong to the so-called Brazilian units that you say how we operate in that. We offer flexibility, agility, and the no bureaucratic cooperative partnership with companies. They love this very much. And at this point, we share risks and costs of investing in innovation. And through this system, you attract private investment in innovation. Though being so young organization, we are already work with more than 800 companies, and 1/4 of these, about 200 companies, are international companies, big ones, small size, and startups, and middle and small size companies. Okay, our procedure is very simple. At any moment, a company can contact one of our units, so-called Brazilian units, and discuss their projects. And then contract, negotiate, approve, and implement directly between company and the Embrapi unit. In other words, we do not make calls for applications of companies to their projects to be supported by Embrapi. It's exactly the possibility to discuss directly between the direct discussion between the company and the Embrapi unit. Our model of operation is shown here. Embrapi support 1/3 of the cost of each project with no refundable resource. This is very important to attract the companies. The companies can go up to 1/3. In fact, they are going much higher than that. It's about 50% of the projects in the average comes from the companies. And the other part is financed by the infrastructure of the so-called Brazilian unit. What's a Brazil unit? It's a network of applied research centers, pre-selected and accredited as Embrapi units. They come from universities and the other scientific institutions. And they must have technical excellence, technological focus, very well defined, strong technological capabilities, both in equipment. We do not finance equipment infrastructure. They must have this before. And of course, scientists and researchers, experience with collaboration with companies, because you know this in Brazil is a very important point. They must show skills for management of the projects, both on scientifically speaking and economically speaking. And as I said, they must work with high agility for project negotiation with the contracting company. I should say here that some of the projects can be discussed and contracted in few days. You have many of these examples, over more than 100,000, more than 1,000 projects that will be supporting. And this structure, they are well selected by very competitive process. In other words, what you have to offer to the company is very good, what the best organization of ICT, or the science and technology research centers in Brazil, selected to be able and financed to be work with the company's projects. These are the distributed. We have 64 of these units distributed throughout the country. And of course, most states, such as São Paulo, has the most of these units, but you also have Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, Rio de Janeiro, Minas Gerais, where we have most of them. But of course, we are still working in expanding the number of such kind of structure. And today we are also already present in Amazons. Okay, so which of these Embrapi units, they work with technological areas that interest to the aerospace system. Here you can see the technological abilities. They have artificial intelligence, embedded electronic system, communication protocols, instrumentation, imaging processing, control and automation, IoT, digital transformation, cyber physical system and cybersecurity, and so on. Actually, it also have several of these units work on materials, such as composite materials, nanotech, polymers, graphene, which not shown here. And for manufacturing, there is also several units shown my left hand. Manufacture, welding, laser, green chemistry, powertrain, 3D printing, clean technology, structural integrity tests, energy systems, and so on. Okay, you also have a very strong partnership, international partnership. We thank very much Apex to help us increasing and improving the amount of international organization and companies that have been making contract with the Brazilian enterprise and organizations using the Embrapi system, which means to through our so-called Embrapi unit. This Germany, in fact, Embrapi was inspired by Fraunhofer system from Germany, United Kingdom with Innovation UK, Newton Fund, European to the Eureka, Cornet, and others, Israel with Israel Innovation Authority, Canada, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Sweden, USA, and Uruguay. Next. I think now it's, what happened, Elena? I think I have to ask our director, Dr. Engineer Carlos Eduardo Pereira, to show some examples of a project being developed by the Embrapi system. Please, Eduardo.
Okay, thanks, Professor Jorge. I go to run over the slides. I think you're seeing my, share my presentation here, and something happened, I think, with our presenter before. This is to give some ideas about the projects they're doing in the aerospace area. This first one is a project with Visiona. So as I mentioned here, we are glad that some of the companies mentioned here are our partners like Embraer and Visiona. This is a low orbit satellite that was developed together with our unit in Santa Catarina, in Florianópolis, the Instituto Senai de Inovação Embedded Systems. This already project almost concluded, the RL6, and now is going to be launched to the space. It's a very successful project that was fully developed in collaboration with Visiona and our unit. We have several projects with Embraer. This is one of them. This is actually a very successful project as well. It's now in the third phase, is electronic embedded controller. This is high reliability embedded system for aeronautic applications. This has been successful done. Embraer has several projects like this. Is a project for developing advanced automation process in aircraft using augmented realities and techniques for ensuring a better operation. We have also a lot of use of computation solution for maintenance systems, also with Embraer, in this case with our unit in Senai Cimatec in Bahia. Here project for antennas built in aircraft with our unit in Inatel that's very specialized on communication and wireless communication antenna design. We have here another project for Embraer doing in the analysis of the use of composite materials and the influence of the internal porosity in the structures of composite materials. This has been developed by our unit for an IPT materials in São Paulo. We have here a project with CERTI. This is a joint project with 3DRE and Embraer. This investigated the topic of thermal management and electronic equipment. That's also a very important topic for the aerospace area. Here is another project, Embraer CERTI, for closed loop engineering in manufacturing for high precision tooling and manufacturing. This is the phase 3 projects I already mentioned before. This is part of international project, Smart Fasteners, also with Embraer. As you can see, Embraer has several projects developed with us, and reliability of structural monitoring systems using this LambWaves technology, a project done by our unit in LAMEF in South Brazil at Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. Here's a project of our institute in polymers that's varnish for executive aircraft furnitures. Structural asset monitoring, also done by LAMEF. Again, the combination of two companies. It's important to stress this. I think this is an opportunity in the Embrapi project. If we can have a consortium built by several different companies. We could be very glad to support a project, for instance, joint project by Embraer, Airbus, and Boeing, and some small companies by addressing some of the challenges they have. We do have also several projects dealing with batteries. This is a good example. It's a project we have a consortium with, I think in this case, are 10 different companies involved. Among Embraer, we have a company that provided of graphite. We have also environmental company and several small and medium-sized enterprise doing battery components and battery products there. We do have also several projects dealing with drones, different ones, and this is for application for pest and agricultural disease monitoring. And also I would like to add, we focus more on aerospace, but based on also what Landon Loomis from Boeing mentioned, it's interesting to notice that we have, for instance, developed several COVID-19 related projects that could be used, for instance, for monitoring in airplanes, for instance, for doing UV disinfection, also image monitoring with thermal cameras to assessing if person has the possibility of having COVID, a lot of AI techniques applied also to that. And also we have several projects dealing with these environmental sustainability issues, also as mentioned before by presenters, for instance, doing projects with biofuels and also biofuels for aviation. And we would be very glad to be able to provide more support to those projects. Yeah, I think basically just very quick, and we'll be glad to answer questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Guimarães and Mr. Carlos Eduardo. It's very nice to hear about Embrapi. Now, to close our second panel, I would like to call Mr. Gustavo Montezano, President of the Brazilian Development Bank, BNDES. Mr. Montezano, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elena. Firstly, I would like to say special thanks to Apex for the invitation to BNDES for being here. It's our pleasure to be participating in such a noble panel of relevant institutions, such as Embrapi, which I send my regards to Jorge. It's was a good partner of BNDES, and to FINEP, which is also a long-standing partner of BNDES as well. So before speaking about our presence, our strategy in the aeronautical, aerospatial industry, let me just say a brief description about the bank. We are the National Development Bank of Brazil. The bank was founded in 1952, so roughly 68 years ago. And during those decades, the bank has been helping Brazil to build up our industries, build up our infrastructure, and develop our SME supporting base in Brazil. The bank is a relevant player in the financial markets in Brazil, both when you see the impact we deliver to Brazil nowadays, and also in the financial metrics. We are one of the largest development banks globally at nominal terms. We have a strong presence in the infrastructure sector, both by modeling and preparing projects for the government at the federal level and also at the states level. The bank has a relevant presence financing SMEs across Brazil, basically with intermediate partners through on lending. The bank is also a relevant player in the export financial landscape in Brazil, and we're going to speak a little bit more about that later. And then the bank also invests in equity and funds where we can capitalize players across different sectors in Brazil. We are very motivated for this new cycle that we're starting now to see in Brazil on the aerospatial sector. We see this as a new long-term cycle, which we like to compare with what we saw on the aeronautical sector, mainly with Embraer here. The bank is a long-standing partner with Embraer. where we are a shareholder of the company with almost 6% of Embraer capital. We also are one of the main exports financer of Embraer. This is a long-term, decades investments for in Brazil, both from the private sector and also from the government side. And we do see, and we are very excited and motivated, we do see that we are going to start a similar cycle now in the aerospatial sector. And how can we see, how do we expect for BNDES to be playing on this field? Firstly, I must reinforce that this is something new for Brazil. Naturally, we have some knowledge on this sector, but it's still on first steps. But with the new base, with the new launch base in Alcântara, and all framework and all cluster of industries and SME that are going to build up on this industry, we do think that it will be a big and interesting learning process for Brazil and for BNDES as well. But our goal, our target, is that we reach state-of-art apprentice on this sector, again, as we have been doing in the aeronautical sector, where we are nowadays one of the best competitors globally on this industry. BNDES will be participating on this venture as a financer, always financing large projects. We can be financing both local companies and international players that are based here in Brazil. We do the same, for example, in the automakers landscape. So the bank will be financing big projects on a direct manner, having the bilateral contact and bilateral commercial relationship with those interested players that are going to be building up bases in Brazil. We'll be also be financing SMEs, and that's why we do think that this sector can really change the landscape at the region, since the SMEs on the industry, they are high level on when we speak about intellectual property, reinforced quality. So that's a key element for our territory development at the northeast and north of Brazil. So we can be supporting those SMEs through indirect lending, through our partners, and also through guarantees. The bank can act with special funds for and guaranteeing the projects, right? The bank can also invest in some participation in the companies, mainly through funds. We have, for example, a venture capital fund. We have a venture debt fund. We have an IoT fund. We do think that we can be more efficient in participating on the medium company segments, especially in the technology, through funds where we have established managers, and we can leverage our funds with third-party money. It could be international multilateral banks, international development banks, international private players, or local players, as we have been doing for several years here in different industries. A good example of this way of playing the market is our recent launched IoT fund, a partnership with Qualcomm, where BNDES plus Qualcomm plus market investors will be playing the industry in small and medium new ventures. We also have a startup acceleration product here. We call it BNDES Garage, where this year, for example, in 2021, we'll be accelerating 135 startup companies in Brazil, mainly on the environmental, social, and government related activities. We're called the impact investments. But this is a long-term product of the bank, and for future cycles, we can be changing or increasing the scope of industries we'll be covering. We can also be participating on the development of the industry in Brazil through grants, as my friends from Embrapa just mentioned. BNDES has a long-standing history of supporting new technology and innovation through grants. On this sense as well, we prefer to work with partnership. And our most recent partnership with Embrapa was focused, for example, on the healthcare sector, where we invest alongside with additional private players and alongside with additional public funds in developing new ways or new technology to improve our industry landscape for healthcare in Brazil. So, summarizing, direct financing for large-scale projects, either for domestic players or international players that have presence in Brazil. For the SME side, on lending, indirect lending through our financial institutions partners, or guarantees from special funds we'll be managing from the government. On the equity side, we participate mainly through funds, where again, we can partner with specialized managers and fund different SMEs across the industries. And lastly, grants, where the bank has been working on this mode for many years as well. And we do prefer, as I said, with the funds, for example, to work with partners. This way, we can capitalize our presence, and we can ensure that our decisions for investments and choosing projects, they flow a good governance process, and also they are a better decision, since you have more players investing together on the different projects. Let me just check if I forgot something. I think that's it. Yeah. Just again reinforcing, we are very optimistic about this new cycle that we're starting on the aerospace sector in Brazil. We do think that the best way to perform that is through the partnership between private and public. We do think that this will be crucial for the territory development of the region. And please count on BNDES. Please contact us if you have any ideas or want to know more. I must say, we still need to learn. Again, that's something that's new in Brazil as an industry, but for sure, with commitment, with long-term thinking, and trying and focusing in involving our country, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty convinced that we can get there, and we'll get there soon. Thank you very much, Helena. Thanks for the invitation again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Montezano. Excellent considerations from our speakers, and thank you very much for your participation. Now we're gonna hear the pitch of two more Brazilian companies with great opportunities for business. Altaza is an aerospace company that develops lighter-than-air vehicles, focusing on the creation of innovative products and services involving multiple applications. The second pitch of this block is from Altaza, a company specialized in solutions for quality inspection in Industry 4.0.
Hello, I'm Rafael, and I'll be presenting Altavi in how we're revolutionizing the experience of monitoring large areas. Monitoring large areas is very complex and expensive, especially now during this COVID times where having people on the ground is a major concern due to exposure risks. To solve this problem, we created Altavi, the first complete intelligent monitoring solution for large areas. We bring actionable information and insights in real time to our clients with a solution that reduces 50 to 75% of costs and is 10 times more cost effective. We do this with a combination of hardware and software, combining cameras, multiple platforms, and video analytics through our modular product architecture to bring the most cost-effective, intelligent monitoring solution to our clients. Our revenue model is a software as a service solution for intelligent monitoring, with a monthly fee per asset and a one-time per client setup fee. And it works very well, and we have our clients to show for it. We have clients in different sectors, ranging from mining, energy, infrastructure, agribusiness, and defense and security. To give an example, I'll talk about one of our clients, Samarco, a Valley BHP Billiton company, where through the use of aerial monitoring and presence sensors, we created a monitoring solution that was able to reduce 100% of perimeter breach attempts and decrease response time threefold, from 5 minutes to 1.5. And our numbers reflect that. We've more than tripled our net revenue from 2018 to 2019 and had an 11% growth last year despite the pandemic, keeping all of our team. And we're poised to double our revenue this year. And all of this happens because of our great team. Our founding team studied in one of the best engineering schools in Brazil, ITA, Institute of Aeronautics Technology, and we have a team of 40 highly passionate individuals motivated to making a difference for the security business. We see this as just the start and plan to keep on growing. Because of this, we're looking for partners to take our business even further. That is why we're opening a new round of investment to fuel our go-to-market plan, finance long-term contracts, and boost our R&D efforts. If you're looking for monitoring solutions for large areas, or you want to be part of a fast-growing company revolutionizing the security business, please let me know.
Hi, my name is Vini. I'm the application manager from Altaza, and I would like to talk a little bit about our company. We are experts in computer vision and artificial intelligence to solve industrial quality inspection problems. We are located in São José dos Campos, Brazil, and we also have a subsidiary in Ann Arbor, Michigan, to attend our clients in the North America market. So we know that today the process of inspection is done by human vision, and all the inspector needs to compare the parts and look for defects using their own eyes and their own hands. So despite of all the advanced technological process we have today, the process of inspection is done by the same way for the past 70 years. So we would like to propose a solution that can use artificial intelligence and also computer vision to provide a unique and automatic process of inspection. For all of our products, we follow the same methodology. We use image or 3D data to build a database, and then we can teach a neural network using artificial intelligence to understand how the defect behaves. And using that neural network, we can provide a unique and intelligent process of inspection. So the first product I would like to show is Altaza Paint. We use a head of measurement on a robot to give reflection on the surface of the part. And then we are able to capture more than 400 images and look for defects like dirt, dust, scratches, orange peel, and more than 25 different types of defect. In the end of the process, we can provide a report showing where the defect is located and also classify the defect by severity, low, medium, and severe. We also can provide solutions, customizable solutions. For example, we can look for different types of defects, and this product can be used for automotive, aerospace, or other several types of industry. The other product that I would like to present is Altaza Aero. That product was developed with a Brazilian aircraft company, and we developed this product to look for defects on airplanes, looking for lightning strike, dents, and also features identification. For that product, we use drones to road all the airplane. In the end of the process, we can provide a report showing where the defect is located, and also if we have some type of problem with the features like windows or doors or other types of components of the airplane. So that's our clients around the world. Most of them are located here in Brazil. We have companies in several industries like automotive, aerospace, cosmetic, and also glass industries. We also have clients in the North America and Europe. So for all of our solutions, we provide what we call Altaza quality standard. We can generate savings that can reach 60% of the current rework costs. All of our inspections is fully traceable using a unique standard, and we also can provide 100% of inspections following a mathematical and unique process of inspection. Depending on your time of inspection, we also can decrease the time using robots or even drones to inspect the system. Thank you very much for your time. If you want to know more about our company, contact me by email or access our website. Thank you very much.
Excellent presentations. If you are a foreign company that wants to partner with those Brazilian companies, please feel free to request online meetings. Before the end of this event, make sure to access our LinkedIn profile, Invest in Brazil, and our website, investinbrazil.com.br, to invest with trust and safety. I also would like to invite all the speakers and the audience to the Brazil Investment Forum, the largest event in Latin America that promotes investment in Brazil. The forum will be online on May 31st and June 1st. You can find more information at brasilinvestmentforum.com. At last, I would like to invite once again Mr. Rodrigo Mendes for our closing remarks.
Thank you, Elena. I would like to again thank Apex and all our partners in this event. It was, on my point of view, a very interesting overview, not only on the Brazilian aerospace industry, its opportunities and challenges, but we also had to connect with the main agencies and institutions of the Brazilian government that can support the foreign investment or companies that want to connect to Brazil, invest in Brazil, and access the Brazilian market. But once again, I would like to, as pointed by Elena, to participate in the B2B meetings that we have tomorrow and throughout the week. So if you haven't yet arranged your schedules and meetings, please do so. Many of us are there. We also have all the Brazilian companies selected to this program, looking for partners to invest in Brazil. I believe that, as I mentioned before, this is a milestone for the industry, for the technology park, and our partnership with Apex, our sectorial projects on the promotion of the aerospace industry. I hope we can keep having these, because for sure this is a very important public policy for the Brazilian industry, for the Brazilian development, and I'm sure, as mentioned by most of our panelists and speakers here today, the Brazilian aerospace industry has a lot of potential and opportunity, capabilities and quality, on talent, on engineering, a whole set of supply chain, and definitely global players that are a very interesting market to be explored. So once again, thank you all for having this time with us in this event. If you need anything or any connection, please contact us at the Technology Park Solutions Campus, or also Apex. And I also like to thank the ones behind the scenes, our teams, myself and Elena, Janaína, Melo, Gabriel, Zimir, and Talita Cancas, that were helping us to organize this event, and all the other Apex and Park Technology crew that are with us here. So thank you very much. I hope you all have great meetings tomorrow, and I hope we can foster our industry, foster the Brazilian aerospace industry. As you all seen, we are here to help you to access this market. Thank you very much. Elena?
Thank you, Rodrigo. And I also would like to say thank you for my team, Gabriel and Janaína. And thanks to all of you who joined us today. See you soon.